Okay, let's talk about framing and supporting an argument real quick. So framing an argument has a lot to do with the rhetorical appeal called Kairos. So Kairos, once again, is timeliness, right? It comes back to that part of the mandatory thesis where it needs to be topical. We need to have some sort of social context which makes our argument timely, which makes it fit into what people care about, what people are talking about, and it's an issue worth arguing. So we need to make sure that our argument is timely and that we are able then to help frame our argument in that timeliness, in the conversations that are happening right now, and also still support our argument with those kind of cultural statements, those cultural nods that, this is happening in society right now, or in Mason society right now, right? Since our audience are Mason students, it's kind of a small audience. We can be very specific to the timeliness and the social constructs, the social contexts that are actually happening with Mason right now. So make sure that we use Kairos to help frame and support our argument. But then there are the other rhetorical appeals that we get to use. So ethos, once again, we will talk about credibility. Now, how do we increase our credibility as we're going through and writing? And I'm actually just going to use our book here. Right, there's a number of ways to go through and take a look at this. Now, credibility, a lot of people have been taught that ethos means ethics, but not necessarily. We just need to make sure that we are a credible spokesperson for this message. So we need to make sure that we have good judgment. Is there an E at judgment? No. Judgment. So by having good judgment, we're able to say, I am a credible spokesperson for this method or for this message. Now, a lot of times, good judgment, how do you show that, right? We need to make sure that we listen to the other side, that we have that outside perspective. We need to make sure that it is a worthy topic, which goes into ethos as well. You'll learn eventually that all of the rhetorical appeals are actually connected. So worthy topic means that we have good judgment also, which increases our ethos. And then we need to be fair, and we need to make sure that we take an interest in what the readers are actually caring about. So good topic through, good judgment through topic choice and through fairness, right? Which is our outside perspective. Okay, so we need to make sure that we are fair to that outside perspective, that we give actual space to it. There we go, tilt you a little. And that is one way to increase our credibility as an author. Now, of course, there are other ways, right? We need to make sure that we show that we're knowledgeable. Now, a lot of times this has to do with research, but it can also be your own study into the material. So things like your narration can prove that you have experience in this topic, in this field, and therefore you're knowledgeable about it. That increases your credibility. All right. Next one that increases your credibility is that you show that you know that this is a complex issue, right? Nothing, no, I'm going to stick with nothing. Nothing in the world is a straight yes or no, black or white, right or wrong kind of issue. The world is so much more complex because the world is made up of people, and people are really complex. So we need to make sure that we never boil down our arguments to a banal, this is what it is. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen in the world. Why should it happen in our writing? So let's make sure that we're able to say, this issue is complex, and I can recognize that, and I can realize that. Now, you can, of course, just state that, right? That's an easy way to let your readers know that you understand it's a complex issue. You can just have that sentence in there, and it might be very effective depending on who your audience is and what your purpose is. But some of the other things, ways that you can put in that you understand a complex issue without being so explicit, is to acknowledge your audience's prior experience. Right? If your audience cares about this topic, they more than likely have some experience with it. You can acknowledge that prior experience in some sort of clause, in some sort of whatever. We can also give nuance, right? Which is to say that we understand that there are counter arguments, there are other sides to the issue, and we are going to give space to that, to acknowledge it. I'm going to run out of board really quick, so I'm coming over here. So with complex issues, we can also expand the implications. So looking at something as easy, or that would seem to not be as complex, but kind of a simplistic issue, right? I can think of an example at some point, right? But if you go through and expand the implication, if you provide a paragraph or a sentence or two about, this matters because of this and this and this, and it can grow larger and larger if we don't address this issue right now in its complexity, because it does have much larger implications if we don't. That's a way to expand or to acknowledge the complex issues that we have. We also need to make sure that we directly refute the binary thinking. Right? Exactly what I just did at the very beginning when I started to talk about complex issues, right? It's not one or the other. It's not right or wrong. There's a whole bunch of in-between grays in there that we can just directly say, this is not a yes or no question. This is not a yes or no answer. We can actually put that in there. Last tip, I guess, to make sure that we understand the complex issue and that we let readers know that we know that it's a complex issue, is to go through and couch your language. Couch is with a U, sorry. Couch language. So what I mean by that is, don't use that language where it's all or nothing, yes or no, definitely, people need to, people should, this is where it is, whatever. Allow there to be space for other sides, space for other things. We can say generally people should blah blah blah. We can say that usually the right path to take would be, whatever, right? We can couch our language in those generally, usually, maybe, sometimes, some people, that kind of qualifiers allow us to realize that a complex issue may not have the same solution for every person in our audience. We can make it so that most people, but not necessarily all people, right? We so go through and do this work, help use ethos and use the writing that you have to frame and support your argument. And in another video, we will discuss pathos and logos.